Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hamilton Report. This is Monday, President's Day, the 15th day of February. It's hard to believe that we've made it half a month in already. I want to mention that tonight's broadcast is a little bit different than normal. As our regular viewers know, this program is broadcast live every Monday evening at 7 o'clock. Well, because the predicted weather was not looking very good, we decided to pre-record this episode because I knew if the weather was as they were predicting, the only way that I would be able to be here with you this evening is if I spent the entire weekend in the studio, and so opted instead to pre-record this program. But I think it's one that's very important, and I'm glad that you are with us this evening. You know, it's often been said that all politics is local. Well, I don't think all of it is, but certainly some of the most important things that impact our lives are local politics. That means that when we are in the supermarket and we are standing in line behind our school board representative or our state senator or representative, these are the same folks who travel the same potholes, who send their children to the same schools, who experience the same challenges of life in our communities that we do. And that's why it's so important that we become involved in the political process at the local level. My guests this evening, and we have two, are two people who have shown tremendous leadership in two different parts of the state. First of all, it's my privilege to welcome to the Hamilton Report the chair of the Oklahoma Democratic County, Robbie White. Robbie, good evening and welcome to the Hamilton Report.
Thank you, Scott. It's my pleasure to be here.
And from the other end of the turnpike, joining us as chair of the Tulsa County Democratic Party, Amanda Swope. Amanda, welcome to our program this evening.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Well, I as I said at the beginning, things that happen at the local level impact all of us. They have a critical, immediate impact on our lives. And so that's why I wanted to invite both of you to come in and visit with us this evening about the opportunities that exist for working in local communities. Amanda, let's start with you. How long have you been chair of the Tulsa Party?
I was elected chair in, April of 2019. So I'm coming up on the end of my first term here. We'll be holding our elections again for our positions at the beginning of April 3rd.
And Robbie, how about you? How long have you chaired the Oklahoma County Party?
I also was elected in 2019.
So you both have some time under your belt now. You've gained some experience as chair, but this isn't the first outing for service that either one of you have had. Robbie, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face in leadership for a county as diverse as Oklahoma County?
That's a great question, Scott. The Oklahoma County is gigantic. We are spread far and wide. We have dense urban core surrounded by wonderful, more rural areas and a lot of suburban. Oklahoma, we're everywhere on the political spectrum. We have very, very liberal parts of Oklahoma County, as well as some more conservative areas. And that's a big challenge. The needs of the Bethany community are very different from Luther and Oklahoma City. And yet we all comprise one county organization. So pulling all that together is a challenge.
And Amanda, Tulsa is not nearly as spread out as Oklahoma City. But Tulsa also encompasses a lot of different folks from different cultures, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And how do you negotiate some of those intricacies within your work?
So kind of what we've been focusing on recently is trying to get people that are engaged in those communities to come on as precinct officers for us at a county level. As a way to start organizing some of those areas. We definitely see a deficit of people getting engaged in certain areas of Tulsa. And so we're working, I think, really hard kind of leading up to our precinct elections coming up to make sure that we're reaching out to them. We're kind of looking at media and doing more of that in a way that I don't think that maybe has been done before. And really reaching out to people that we know are already personally doing work in those areas, just to bring more people in, make sure people in those areas feel confident in coming forward and saying that they're a Democrat and being strong in those beliefs.
You mentioned precinct officers, and we are just about ready for our precinct conventions, followed then by county. Then that will be followed by our state. Robbie, what is involved in precinct leadership?
Wow, I'm really glad you asked me that. We've been like Tulsa County, we've been engaged in quite a bit of recruitment for precinct officers. I believe strongly, and I have for many years, that we are only as strong as our least organized precinct. And we know that in a precinct, it's like a little neighborhood. What's involved there is making sure people are registered to vote, making sure that they know when to vote and what's on the ballot. It's about the most important thing that we can encourage a precinct officer to do is have two-way communication between the party and the voters. And that's crucial. For too long, the Republicans have been allowed to yell and scream about who the Democrats are. And we're really focused in on telling that story person to person, one-on-one, in small groups of who we are as Democrats and why we choose to support Democratic policies and candidates.
I'm glad that you said the importance of a two-way conversation. I think that a lot of times people just assume that everything is communicated from the state to the county to the precincts. But in fact, there's a great deal of communication that takes place in and among precinct officers, and certainly with the county. Amanda, with regard to organizing your precincts, are there specific areas within Tulsa that you're having a challenge getting enough folks interested to have quality leadership?
I mean, I think that there are some areas that are really neglected in a lot of senses in the city of Tulsa, not just in politics, but in I think the investment that we see the city make as a whole. We definitely have a certain kind of pocket of what I would say is probably younger, more progressive people that are very passionate about getting involved. And so, yeah, there's certainly that. We also deal with some of the suburban areas, kind of like what Robbie was talking about in Oklahoma City, where those areas tend to lean more red. So there's just not as many Democrats as a whole in those areas. So yeah, we definitely, there are some areas that I feel like we're going to be working really hard to engage this year, because our next step is to take the county. We do really good to maintain our numbers in the city of Tulsa, but not as the county overall.
And that is a distinction to make, because the party is organized by county, not by city. And it's probably a good thing in terms of Oklahoma City, because the city limits here go, like, it seems like halfway to the East Coast. When you're driving into Oklahoma City, it says Oklahoma City limits, and you're like, that's impossible. There's no way that this is a part of anybody's city. But Robbie, in all seriousness, are there opportunities for leadership for people who are just moving into Oklahoma City or just moving in to a new community? How do they get involved? First of all, how do they even find out who their precinct officers are and when their meetings are?
That is a great question, Scott. I'm so glad you asked that. We have a website. It's okcountydemocrats.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And there is a lot of communication. There's a way on our website to just send us a message. Facebook, same way. And anybody who has not been involved before, if you just moved to Oklahoma County or you're just not getting involved, reach out. We will get you hooked up. Our county meetings are every third Tuesday at 6:30. So coming up just this upcoming Tuesday at 6:30 on Zoom, we will be holding our next meeting. And we do that every month, 12 months a year. We try to be educational and have some fellowship in there. We sure do miss being in person. It's so nice to greet new people face to face, but we're trying to do that on Zoom as well. But literally, there are so many pathways to reach out to the officers and volunteers at Oklahoma County: Facebook, Twitter, our website, again, okcountydemocrats.org, has everything you need. And we're always so happy to hear from you people.
And Amanda, the same question to you. How do people find out about your meetings, where they go, who to talk to?
Sure. I'm glad you asked that, because we have a program here that pays people to move into Tulsa. So we get lots of new people very frequently here. I know it's a great program.
Wait a minute. You mean there was a program that I could have moved to Tulsa and gotten paid for it, but instead I moved to Oklahoma City?
Yes,
Okay.
what my parameters are, but it's definitely pushing people to move here. So that's been wonderful to have. It brings a lot of people here. And so if somebody is coming and is just wanting to get initially involved, doesn't know where to start, kind of same as Robbie said, we have a website, tulsacountydemocrats.org. They can also check our Facebook, and we also have an Instagram. As far as some of the precinct officer trainings that we've been doing, which is a very 101 basic kind of introduction to the party, we've been working to at least advertise those in the local newspaper. And same with our elections, and we've been doing even some more media for that. So pretty much you should be able to look, I think, at most media sources or online to be able to find out about our stuff.
Thank you for that. And for both of you, you've each mentioned training, and I think that's a critical piece. The state party, the Oklahoma Democratic Party, for the state of Oklahoma, we offer some major programs throughout the year. We're coming up soon on our Campaign Academy 2021, which is really exciting. I'm looking forward to that. But I know that each of you have been doing trainings as well. Robbie, it seems like, I swear, you spend more time on Zoom calls in the evening than you possibly can with your family. But it's all for good. And I really do appreciate the time that each of you are spending cultivating new leaders, making folks feel comfortable in their positions. Now, we're talking about 2 counties right now. Oklahoma has a lot of counties, and most counties in the state do have, they are organized, which means that they do have party leadership within those counties. Not all, but we're working to make that true for every single one. But Robbie, you began something that I think is really a critically important thing, modeled off of the way that the states do it between states, and that is you are engaging county leaders from around the state in regularly scheduled meetings. You're exchanging ideas, and I'm loving that. Would you talk a little bit about that program, please?
Absolutely. Definitely not been alone in that. A lot of county leaders have been involved. Amanda has been to several of our meetings. We have been, we're calling ourselves informally the Oklahoma Association of Democratic County Chairs. And what we're doing is we're just getting together as often as we can, exchanging ideas, whether you're from, a little bitty county or a big county. Oftentimes we have a lot to learn from each other. I mean, it's 100% of the time when I'm with other county officers, I learn something. This is my first term, and the people who've been out there doing this work, they always bring something new to the conversation. So because we're organizing for precinct elections in every county across the state, we have had some actual hands-on training where we're learning to be better virtual organizers. We've had some really good discussions around the bylaws and the rules and how to do proxies and pre-registrations, and a really good conversation even last night about inclusiveness on those virtual meetings for people with disabilities. And it's always a struggle for a smaller organization like a county party to put together those tools for people to make sure that we can include everybody. So we have had a great time. Every time we have a meeting, we get more and more counties involved. And it is, I think my favorite comment I've heard is from other county chairs is, "Oh, this is so great. I was enjoying being county chair, but I wasn't sure I was going to run again. But with this support group, I think I will. So that's very encouraging. I love to hear that.
It is encouraging, and that makes me really happy because, as with anything, a state organization, we can only do so much. We're very limited in staff in terms of financial resources. And so what we can do is provide support to leaders like you, who then in turn work with other leaders around the state. And we're already seeing some good value in that. And I'll tell you, it's exciting to me when I hear from someone that says, I was at this county chairs meeting last night, and there was a lot of excitement. There was enthusiasm for this, or we talked about this, or I'm so glad to know I'm not the only one dealing with some of these issues. And I think that's a great thing, because oftentimes in leadership, it can be easy to feel like we are out there on our own. No one's ever been where we are. And I know that the two of you have a good working relationship, and that's clearly impacting other counties as well. But Amanda, I'd like for you to speak to the smaller counties, chairs in smaller communities in Oklahoma. What are some things that you would advise them? What encouragement would you give them? What are some things that they may want to watch out for?
Encourage them to get on Robbie's radar for that call. I feel like it does provide a lot of support, like what she said. And I could imagine that if you were somebody that's in maybe a smaller county or a county that has less people, that can feel even more, isolating. I think, we're definitely not without, receiving criticism from Republicans in Tulsa. Even though we're a largely progressive city, we still have a lot of people that definitely don't agree with our viewpoint and that really aren't happy that our party exists here at all. But I would just encourage people not to give up. There's plenty of people that have given much more to stand up for their right to believe what they believe in. And I think that that's a message overall that resonates with people in Oklahoma. I think that a majority of the people just want to have the freedom to believe what they want to believe. And in some ways that's problematic right now, but at the same time, I don't think that being a Democrat right now is the problem.
I'm glad you said that, and you raise an interesting point, Robbie. When we were when you all were doing drive-by notaries last year, and boy, some of those days it was hotter than the inside of a boot, and you all were out there. And one afternoon, I was visiting with you, and a woman came up to have something notarized, and she was talking about how alone she feels. She was from a small community in Oklahoma, and she says, "I don't know any other Democrats where I live." How do you address that? Because obviously, a person is not the only Democrat in their community, but I do understand that depending on where you live, you may not want to advertise. You may not want to put out a Biden-Harris sign. So what kind of encouragement do you give to those kinds of folks?
I am privileged enough to live in the most liberal district in the heart of Oklahoma City. But getting to know my fellow county chairs, I've learned a little bit about what it's like to live in a place where not everybody votes like you do. And I have a lot of admiration for their courage. It's a whole different thing to be a Democrat in small town Oklahoma than it is to be a Democrat in the heart of Oklahoma City. Or I can't speak to living in Tulsa, but it seems like it's fairly progressive. But I would say to them, you are not alone. There are other Democrats in your neighborhood, and that let's help you find those people so you can start the work of emboldening one another to actually be able to vote and to advocate for policies that are democratic, that are good for people who live in your area. What we're seeing is that the Republican Party is abandoning the principal tenets of our democracy, little d democracy. And so I would just tell them, we will help you however we can to introduce you to other Democrats in your area, just for the sake of working together to provide that leadership. You know, we live in a state that has a super majority of Republican leadership at the state level, and it is in some ways very hostile to hardworking Oklahomans and their well-being. And so I would encourage them to get out there and find whatever Democrats you can find, and just start to organize. And you're not alone. There are a whole lot of Democrats here in Oklahoma who will support you in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting too, because both of you counties, you don't have to go very far from where either of you live, and you find yourself in a rural community very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think of rural communities as being in the panhandle. Well, that's certainly true, but it's not limited there. Most of our state is rural.
Sure.
And one of the things that our chair has been insistent upon and consistent with is reaching out and engaging members of the party in rural or more rural parts of Oklahoma. And that's exciting to me because, you know, I think Amanda, you mentioned a moment ago that we've allowed Republicans to say who we are and what we believe. And
Robbie,
that was,
yeah.
Robbie, in both cases, you both have experienced that, I know. And that's something at a state level that we are addressing head on. It's like, nope, we are not socialists. Nope, we are not baby killers. Let me tell you who we are. We're people that care about you and your family. We care about your crops. We care about your businesses. We care about your cattle. We care about your children. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you start to see that even people who may have traditionally voted along Republican lines, we have a lot more in common with their lives than the Republican Party may today. And I think that that's where we have some room for growth. Amanda, when you hear from folks in rural counties nearer to Tulsa, what are some of the things that you get from them? What are they looking for in terms of support and your leadership?
They're mainly looking for a way to get connected. A lot of them, I don't even think realize, that there maybe is a county party in their area. I hear from a lot of counties sometimes outside of my county, or really even outside of our congressional district sometimes, that just don't know where to, locate people. I've had to, and I understand that being a struggle because we're one of the counties that's fortunate to have a headquarters, but that's not the case for every county in the state. And so some people don't have the physical location to look for like we have in Tulsa. So I've had to direct people to fair booths before that I know that are out there, or even to just get them in contact with the next closest county chair that I can to that area, to see if they might know a contact. It's connection in my mind, and kind of like what Robbie said, just not feeling alone or like they're the only one.
It truly is. It's a matter of networking, and that's one of the things that we try to offer from a state perspective for any time we gather. And that obviously we all wish we could be meeting in person, but I will say that our virtual meetings have given us an opportunity to talk more frequently and breaking down some barriers. We've been able to work across the lines of a city or a county. And so even though this has been a tragic situation that's put us here, I think we have found some real pluses in terms of being able to work together. And, while we're all eager to get back to in-person meetings, I think for the foreseeable future, we are going to continue to find a wealth of opportunities to come together virtually like we are here tonight.
I agree. I was just telling Robbie last night, I feel like it's easier to be a young professional in some sense during COVID, because now I can clean my house and do a Zoom call.
Wow. Yeah. That's really looking on the bright side. But I'm glad you said that, because we have all spent so much time bemoaning the isolation. And Robbie, I think when I was talking to you a couple of weeks ago, I said, I just want to hug you. I just,
Yeah.
and we're all going through that. My poor dogs, I have hugged them so much that by the time I get home in the evening, they're like, "Oh no, he's home. Don't make any noise. We just want to hug him again." So I know you all know what that's like.
Yeah.
But we are just about out of time. I'd like for each one of you to take a moment and not to other leaders, but to Democrats, ordinary folks in your community who may not have been involved or may not have been involved for a long time. Robbie, let's start with you. What would you like to say directly to the folks that you want to have involved?
Thank you. That's an awesome opportunity. I believe very strongly that the Democratic policies are good for people. Minimum wage needs to be raised. We need to protect our access to healthcare, and we need to help our businesses grow. If those things are important to you, you need to come take a look at the Democratic Party. We are working for those things right here in Oklahoma, and if we work together, we can make some progress. It's so important that we answer the Republican supermajority and what I call a very minimalist type of government work that they're doing. They're doing very little governing and a whole lot of infringement upon our rights as localities. And the pandemic is just the easiest yardstick to use. Our mayor in Oklahoma City pointed out that if Oklahoma City had not set its own mask mandate and made restrictions early on to prevent the virus from spreading, 380 more Oklahoma City residents would have died. And that's compared to the rest of the state, where there were not solid mask mandates. And that's just one metric where the carelessness of our Republican leaders is very damaging to our well-being. So come on over, get to know us in the Democratic Party, meet the people in your precinct. We're gathering on March 11th. It's going to be so exciting. And, just give us a try. You will not. Sorry.
Thank you for that, Robbie. I'm going to ask Amanda, what would you like to say directly to folks who are not involved, but you would like to have involved?
I mean, I think what Robbie said is a great way to, how she ended it is a great way to start in my mind, which is give us a chance. We are trying to look at this as an opportunity at our precinct officer elections as a way to bring in anybody that feels like the party that they see as the Democratic Party isn't what it looks like now. If you are progressive and you feel like there's an issue out there that we're not talking about, come be a precinct officer, tell us. Even if you don't want to be a precinct officer, reach out and tell us and see how we can help you use your time and energy to work on that issue as well. That's one thing that being involved with the party will get you, is just not only other people that care about your issue and that you can work with together, but also resources for you to have an impact in that area. So yeah, if you're seeing something and you want to get it taken care of and you want people to help you address it, then I think that the Democratic Party is a great place to do that.
Wow, you both have given us so much this evening, and I'm really grateful for it, not just for the way that you're speaking to other leaders, but the way that you're speaking to Democrats on behalf of Democrats. And I appreciate you both so much, all that you do, all that you have done, and for your continued leadership in the party. And it's honestly, it's a real privilege for me to be able to work with you and see the work that you're doing, making a difference every day. So I hope that you'll both plan on coming back to the Hamilton Report and visiting with us again soon. It's going to be an exciting year to be a Democrat here in Oklahoma. So Amanda Swope, Robbie White, thank you both for being with us tonight. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Wow. This is a good time to be a Democrat in Oklahoma. There's never a bad time, but this is a particularly good time because what we're seeing play out on the national stage is the result of a disgraced ex-president and the people who followed him. Some of those are supposed to be representing Oklahomans in Washington even today. The fact is that They do not represent me, and I dare say they do not represent you. So it's our hope that by continuing to work together, all of us can truly, truly make a difference in Oklahoma. Our governor keeps saying we're almost a top 10 state. We're not. We're nowhere near it. But we have the potential because we have smart people here, talented people. Our diversity makes us strong, but it's our inclusivity that really makes us stronger. So I hope that you've enjoyed tonight's program. I hope that you will be with us again next Monday night. Please tell your friends that if they missed this episode or any episode, they are available, as are our Chairs Daily live reports. They're all available on our Facebook page and our YouTube page, which is simply okdemocrats.org/YouTube. The weather is bad. We're stuck in winter. So that means, please, more than ever before, take good care of yourself. Take care of those that you love, and know that we are here for you and we are here with you. Until next week, on behalf of all of us here at the Hamilton Report and the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton, thanking you for being with us. Stay well, stay warm, and good night.